Hi everyone, I'm Bella. Welcome back to Therapyology Thursday. Here today joined by Leah,
Hi, everyone.
and we are here to talk today about effective communication.
Yeah.
So, Leah, what does effective communication mean? I know it can sound obvious, right? Like communicating effectively, but
hmm
let's get into the weeds of what it actually means and what it looks like and how we all can practice it more in our daily lives.
Yeah. So, effective communication is a really great tool for anyone of any age to use. And what it does is it allows you to fully communicate. So, convey your thoughts, your wants, your needs, your boundaries, whatever it may be, to people in your life, whether that's your sibling, your significant other, your parents. Um, it really just allows you to create thorough and useful communication that has strong intentions, and this way it can be productive.
I think you had an important point there that we have to be intentional, and being intentional is part of effective communication. So, why do you think, or how do you think we can come up to terms with our own intentions behind what we say? Is it like something that we have to come up with and that we have to read in other people?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things with effective communications is intention. I think oftentimes we go to tell someone what's on our mind and we end up kind of attacking people. It's kind of almost just point the finger, you did this and da 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 da. I'm upset, I'm this, and all those feelings are extremely valid. But we almost have a tone of voice or a word choice that makes it seem like we're pointing a finger at someone and attacking someone.
Okay, so I think it
And
it comes down to like being a little introspective and looking inward and thinking, what
yeah,
do I want from this conversation and
yeah,
what are my true intentions behind saying X, Y, Z or whatever it is
yeah,
you're bringing up.
because we don't want to attack people, So I think that's where the intention comes in. It's just saying, what's my point in bringing this up? How do I want to bring this up? Am I conveying what I'm truly intending to convey? Or am I verbally attacking someone without realizing it? So just being really, thorough with your
Mindful too.
intentions.
I think it
Yeah.
comes back to mindfulness as well.
hmm
We have to really be in the present moment and focusing on the here and now, um, so that we can be mindful of things like attacks or saying, putting our foot in our mouth or saying the wrong thing or speaking without thinking, which is something that we all do, right?
Yeah.
It's a human thing that we do. But I think the goal in effective communication is just to try and reduce it
hmm
by being intentional. You
Yeah.
mentioned earlier a point, you told me earlier about like using I statements. What does that mean?
Yeah. So I sentences are pretty simple. They start with the word I. So what it does is it takes whatever you're talking about and it allows you to convey that message with your feelings and what your needs are, but without pointing the finger at someone and saying, you did this. So when someone hurt your feelings, it's, hey, like, I wanted to chat. I am feeling upset. I've had some time to reflect and I really feel like this affected me in a negative way. Or I feel like, your actions weren't maybe the best, but I'm feeling upset. This action upset me.
Because no
You,
one can argue your feelings, right? No one can
hmm
argue. They can argue with statements made and accusations thrown their way, but no one can argue with how you feel because that's how you feel and that's up to you.
yeah. It's like saying there's a difference between saying I'm feeling upset and I'm feeling small because you said this versus you made me feel small.
You made me upset. Stuff like that.
hmm Yeah, so it's simply, putting in the word I allows you to focus on your own intentions and feelings and allows you to fully convey an accurate message. It kind of makes it so there isn't any wiggle room for someone else's
hmm
interpretation.
I think it can be kind of empowering too, I
Mhm.
statements.
Mhm.
You kind of take control over your feelings and own up to your feelings in a way that I think takes lots of courage and bravery. But in terms of effective communication, I think it can really carry conversation in such a meaningful, intentional, like we keep talking about way. So yeah, that's really helpful to hear.
Yeah, I think oftentimes when we use effective communication, it allows us to process on the back end first. So we
Okay.
go into things with a clear mind and a clear head, versus if not, we're oftentimes speaking out of spite.
Yes.
And I think effective communication is really good for not leaving any room for miscommunication.
So how can we go about avoiding miscommunication? Because it's so prevalent and I feel like it comes up it's just easy to miscommunicate, right? Because we
Yeah.
all come into conversations with our preconceived notions and these ideas that we think we have. And
Mhm.
so, how do we like avoid that? It seems tricky.
Yeah, I think the best thing you can do to avoid a miscommunication is to kind of allow yourself to process before you are communicating whatever it is that you're upset, excited, frustrated with. Kind of giving yourself a moment to do some mindfulness, bring yourself back to your baseline, really take a moment. Maybe you're journaling, whatever it is that you want to be able to talk about. And the best thing you can do is fully process those feelings on your own first and be very clear with where you stand, how you feel, and what you want to talk about before you go into that conversation.
I think if there is a miscommunication, I think it's important to own that and
Hmm.
kind of take control over that and say, I maybe misunderstood that or I made a mistake here. I think taking ownership of miscommunication can be super effective also in reducing conflict and making the other person go on the offensive. And then things kind of snowball from there. So if you can like own it, if it does pop up, because it's
Yeah.
inevitable, right? We're all going to miscommunicate at one point or another. So if we can just say, hey, I think I heard that or that was misconstrued or something like that,
Yeah.
that can be effective too.
Yeah, and I think just, doing things as simple as reminding yourself, like we all misinterpret or miscommunicate things sometimes, and we kind of just have to be gentle with ourselves. Doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you, a bad communicator, or it doesn't make you mean or anything.
It's a really important point.
Yeah, just kind
Yeah.
of being gentle with yourself and allowing yourself to even admit, like, ooh, like,
Not
I
my
kind of
best
messed
work
up there. Yeah. People, I think mistakes are well received when we acknowledge them and take accountability for them.
versus like doubling down and
Yeah.
committing, right? We want to just own it and apologize. And like you're saying, to yourself with grace and compassion
Hmm.
and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah. There's effective communication with words, right? So things like using I sentences, really processing your feelings and allowing yourself to gather your thoughts before you bring up the conversation. Um, and then there's effective communication with body language too.
true. I think that's really important.
Hmm.
Things like mirroring the person we're talking to, right? If they're kind of sitting openly, we want to sit open and like
Yeah.
communicate versus like being closed off or walled off and kind of stuff like
Hmm.
that. Because I know mirroring can kind of make the other person feel comfortable as well. What other forms
Yeah.
of body language do you think
I
work?
think maybe allowing yourself to almost read the room in a way and
Okay.
seeing, okay, this person is clearly they're hunched over, they're upset, they're kind of cradled up, maybe their words that they are saying are kind of shaky, that it's taking them a long time to get their thoughts out. Maybe just kind of allowing yourself to put yourselves in their shoes and saying, okay, they're obviously on edge, or they're upset, or this is difficult for them to speak about. So just knowing when you need to give that person grace, you
And
know?
maybe lightly call them out and be like, "Hey, I noticed that you might seem a
Mhm.
little anxious. Is that accurate? Am I right there?" Like, and then
Yeah.
provide them the space to then share their emotional experiences too. I think it's such a give and
Yeah.
take.
Yeah. And even saying too, like, hey, like, I really appreciate you sharing this with me. I can tell that it wasn't
Yeah.
easy, and I just want to let you know that I'm appreciative of that.
So lots of validation.
Mhm.
I think validation is key
Yeah.
across the board.
Yeah. Or if you notice that someone brings something up and they're very upset and you can tell in their body language that they're angry. Maybe that's a time for you to also kind of read the situation and say, hey, I've noticed we're feeling a little bit angry. I'm not upset at you for feeling angry. I don't hold it against you for feeling angry. But maybe it would be a good opportunity for us to, maybe table this conversation and come back to it in 20 minutes or at a later date.
That's a really important point. I think
Yeah.
timing is everything in effective communication.
Hmm.
If somebody is clearly having a tough day, maybe now is not the time to bring up the most important conversation you've ever had with them, right? Maybe
Hmm.
it's time to give them the space they need and even check in and say, hey, is now a good time to talk? Or do you want to wait until tomorrow after work or tomorrow after school or stuff like that? But I think you're right. Like timing is everything with effective communication. So I think we're talking a lot about communicating, obviously, and the things we're saying. I think a huge chunk of effective communication is listening as well.
Hmm.
I think it's really important, and we've talked about this a lot, right, Leah? Is it's important to listen with the intention of understanding, not listening with the intention of responding.
Hmm.
Because the more we listen to respond, then we're formulating thoughts in our heads of what we want to say when the other person's talking and we're not actively listening.
Yeah.
It's a skill called active listening. Pretty self-explanatory, right? You want to listen actively, and kind of do things like your nonverbals and your paralinguals, saying like, mm-hmm, okay, yeah, I'm following, like just things to like reassure the person that you're actually listening and you're
Yeah.
engaged and that you are tracking what they're saying. So I think listening is equally, if not as important
Mhm.
as what you're actually saying and the words that are actually coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, I think that, oftentimes we get very caught up in what is being said and what we want to say back. And that's something that even us as therapists, we are guilty of this for
100%.
sure.
Hmm.
Because I think oftentimes, we're trying to process and be like, oh, what could be going on here? And we, I think, have to almost check in with ourselves and be like, okay, process later, review later,
I'm
listen
listening to
now.
understand now.
Yes. So, I mean, whether you're a therapist or anywhere in the mental health profession or just a student or working anywhere, we're kind of all guilty of maybe not always active listening and thinking about what our next words are going to be. And it's a balance and it's
Yeah.
difficult and it's nothing to be ashamed of if it is difficult for you.
Yeah, I don't want to make any of this sound simple and easy, because I feel like we live in a world that trains us to focus on what's next always.
Yeah.
And so we're always thinking like, what are they going to say next? What are they going to do next? What do I need to say next? And kind of living in like the future, like having lots of future thoughts and conversations. So
Mhm.
I think I'm going to keep bringing it back to just like mindfulness and being in the
Yeah.
present moment. And everyone thinks they know what mindfulness is, and people associate it with like meditation and yoga and breath work. And that's all of that falls into mindfulness, but it's also just being here in the
Mhm.
present moment. And it can be, you can do anything mindfully, right? You can mindfully walk, you can mindfully eat, you can mindfully walk your dog, like anything you can do mindfully. So I
Yeah.
think especially it really comes down to communicating effectively through being mindful as well.
Yeah. If you had to think of a really common situation that effective communication would be beneficial, what do you think that might be?
To tie it in, for maybe some of our younger listeners, I think like school times, right? I
Mhm.
commonly in sessions use this example of when you're walking down the hall at school and you walk past a friend and they don't even look at you, right? You
Mhm.
you just kind of keep passing each other, and then you might be like internalizing and be like, "Oh my gosh, are they mad at me? What did I do?" And then you kind of just get into this like spiral self critical loop and being like, "They must hate me. What did I do?" So how could we apply effective communication to like a scenario like that in which you're coming to all these conclusions, making all these assumptions,
Mhm.
and maybe no words have even been said yet? What would you, if that was you in that situation, how would you proceed?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would do is kind of jot down my own thoughts and then maybe try to challenge them a little bit.
Okay.
Some skills that we talk about all the time are challenging negative thoughts and being able to reframe things. And I think that's
And checking
when,
the facts. I think checking the
yeah,
facts would be huge in this situation.
yeah. So really taking time to write out your thoughts and then kind of look at them and say, okay, is there evidence that this could be true? How can I reframe this a little bit differently?
And what are
Or
all
how
the
do I challenge this?
and in challenging it, you could say like, what are all the possibilities here that could have
Hmm.
happened? Like maybe they didn't see you. Maybe they are having a tough day. Maybe they're in their own head. Maybe they have their AirPods in and don't even see you, or they're not
Yeah.
even paying attention. And then I think once you do these things, check the facts, challenge your
Hmm.
beliefs, do all this kind of cognitive restructuring, we'll call it,
Yeah.
then maybe there's room to consider the timing and intentionally reach out to the friend and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, is there time? Do you have time today or tomorrow or this week to have a little chat?"
Yeah. Or even something as, maybe they have a big test coming up in their next hour. So maybe even something as like, hey, like, saw you in the hall today. Tried to say, hey, not sure if you have a lot going on. Just know if you do, like, I'm always here to chat. Maybe they are like, oh my gosh, I'm already so stressed. I don't have time to chat with this person anytime soon. But if you could just go that little extra mile and be like, hey, I'm not sure if there's anything going on.
So open that line of communication
Yeah,
up.
just say, I'm always here to chat if you need. You don't always have to ask the question of like, did I do something? Maybe it's just, I'm always here to chat if you need. And maybe that's when they respond and say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I had a test coming up. I didn't even notice. Or, I actually do have a lot going on. Like, I don't have time to chat now, but that would be great. Let's do something soon.
I think that sets the stage for effective communication in the future. If you
Hmm.
can lay those ground rules and help someone see that you're kind of in their corner, and no matter what
Yeah.
kind of mood they're in or what they're going through, if you can still be an open, kind of open door policy for them if they need to come talk to you about anything,
Hmm.
and just kind of model healthy and effective communication yourself, that might just, like I said, like lay the groundwork for further really effective and meaningful connection and communication down the line.
Yeah. I also feel like effective communication would be great for some of our older clients who may be in relationships. I think, that's when we really tie in the I sentences and acknowledging other people's feelings and trying to kind of read the room and see what's going on. And,
Yeah.
we did a Therapyology Thursday a little while ago talking about relationships and boundaries and things like that. And effective communication is really important in relationships too.
And it's the method by which we set boundaries, right? We use our words and our
Hmm.
actions to set those boundaries. So I think effective communication really ladders up into all these other really healthy coping skills.
Hmm.
So I think it's just kind of like the fundamental foundational piece to having just healthy relationships in general.
Yeah. Maybe there's a situation where, you know, let's say I'm in a relationship with someone and I've been ignoring them the entire day. You know, how do you think my partner in this relationship could use effective communication to kind of approach me about that situation?
I think they could first like put themselves in your shoes and treat you with the same loving, unconditional compassion that they would want to receive.
Hmm.
And kind of like what we were already talking about, like saying like, well, there's a whole host of reasons why that my partner could be not attending to me right now. And then I see no shame in just kind of directly, but lightly and intentionally, and meaning all these things we've talked about, like calling out that behavior and saying, hey, maybe tentatively, I'm noticing that we seem to be on different pages today. I'm noticing that we seem to not be meeting eye to eye. I'm noticing that something might be up, or I'm feeling like an I statement.
Hmm.
I'm feeling vibes are off, or something feels different in the air
Yeah.
today. What is going on for you? So again, just opening that line of communication up and giving that person a platform,
Yeah.
and kind of communicating to them that, hey, I'm here for you. Like you were saying, I'm here for you. I care, and I'm here to listen whenever you open up. And I think that breeds an
Hmm.
important point in kind of timing and respecting the other person's autonomy.
Yeah.
So if they don't want to talk, I think an important part of effective communication is giving them that space when they need
Hmm.
space. It's not always so proactive and being like, we need to resolve this right now. But if that person that you're trying to communicate with, your partner, your friend, your teacher, your parent, your
Yeah.
boss, whoever it is, if they need time and if they don't have the time to devote to you that second, I think we have to learn how to tolerate that distress and to sit with those hard feelings and not try and force a conversation that may
Yeah.
need to play out more organically in due time.
Yeah. You mentioned, saying like, hey, like, I really care about you. I've noticed, this is going on today. And I think with the I really care about you, that's kind of going back to our intentions, right? Like,
Mhm.
what is the reason you want to kind of subtly, nicely call out this behavior? It's because you care.
And anybody who, like we're saying, feels attacked is going to go on the defensive. And then they're
Hmm.
not listening to understand, they're listening to respond. And that's what kind of breeds further conflict. So again, we're so repetitive, but it keeps coming back to like your intentions and
Yeah.
the meaning behind what you're saying and knowing and being honest with yourself about what you're saying and why you're saying it. I think, like we're saying, like just being aware of yourself and your needs and your wants and your
Hmm.
habits and your intentions is
Yeah.
equally as important as what the other person is saying and bringing to the conversation because it's a two-way street, right? All communications are two-way streets.
Yeah.
And that's awesome because it's not all on you, right? It's about the joint
Hmm.
twosome. But that makes it hard because we can't really know what's going on in somebody's head.
Yeah.
And that just adds another layer of complexity, which again just reinforces the point of just being clear and communicating clearly and without ambiguity. And we keep saying it, but like just intentionally.
Yeah. And I think reflection too.
Yeah.
Whether you're reflecting with a partner or you're reflecting on your own and being like, okay, how did that go? Did I use effective skills? Was I intentional? Was there miscommunications? What went down? What could I do better next time? Because no one just communicates effectively right off the bat without trying. We all have to actively try to do so, and it's habits that take time to build. So I think in building those habits, we have to be able to openly and honestly reflect with ourselves and saying, okay, maybe this was something I could have done better, or you know what, this could have been really helpful there, and I wish I said that. So
I
this
love that
way,
point.
yeah, going back to next time and saying like, okay, I think that's one of the great things about having a life partner is being able to say like, "Hey, we're in this together." Like, is there something I could have communicated a little bit better to you? Or, Is there a way that you would have liked me to communicate that with you? Just kind of having open conversation, or even with a friend. If
I
it
was gonna say
didn't
that
go
works
well with
for
a friend.
friends, with
Yeah.
business partners, with bosses, with
Yeah.
coworkers, with kind of across the board. I think the skills we're talking about today can really be universally applied to
Hmm.
a whole host of situations and dynamics.
Hmm.
Because that's the point of communicating effectively is it's not supposed to just help us in one realm, right? It's supposed to be something that transcends all
Yeah.
of our different life
Hmm.
zones or spheres or whatever it might be.
Yeah. I think patience is going to be a really big thing that helps
Yeah.
additionally. Whether it's talking to your friend, partner, coworker and saying, "Hey, like I would really like to talk to you about this." And if they say, "Oh, like I don't have time today, can we talk tomorrow?" Or maybe they're still really heated and you have to decide together, "Okay, maybe we'll talk in 20 minutes." Just kind of being patient and allowing the conversation to happen when it happens. Because if it's rushed or if it's forced,
Yeah.
it may not go as well.
Like we're kind of talking about, like we need to be able to tolerate the distress and the unknown.
Yeah.
And that falls back on us to develop our own coping skills. And that kind of, we have another video that we've
Mhm.
posted about coping skills. So watch that if you need some ideas. But coping skills are important because we can't always resolve everything right now whenever we want to. So
Yep.
if we can fall back on our skills and our ability to tolerate distress and to self-soothe and to check the facts and do all of these important skills that we will learn how to do, then we'll be less apt to jumping in and ignoring timing and ignoring all the
Yeah.
things we're talking about and just rushing into a you
Yeah.
accusational kind of conversation.
Yeah, because a lot of us get that urge to be like, "No, I need to talk about it right now. Like, this is not sitting well with me. I don't feel good. I'm nervous and I'm anxious and I need to talk about it right now." A lot of us get
It's
like
a
that.
completely normal response,
Yeah.
right? Humans are meaning-making machines, and we want to address things in real time as they happen, right? It's hard to
Mhm.
sit with discomfort and tricky feelings. Um, but it's so much more beneficial to us in the long term, right? If we can do
Yeah.
all these things we're talking about today. And timing is everything. And like Leah's saying, like concerted effort and practice and
Mhm.
time, using all of these skills we're talking about and all the skills we talk about in all of our videos. Um, it's just really important to give yourself that space and know that we can sit here in these chairs all day and tell everyone to do all these things. And it might make sense, but things don't click that easily, right? It takes,
Yeah.
like we're saying, time and effort and practice. And
Takes a lot of
we can sit here
practice.
all day and say, do this, do this, do this. But
Mhm.
so I don't mean to make any of this sound easy, right? Because like we're saying, it takes lots of time. And
Yeah.
so give yourself grace and compassion as you're learning all of these new skills and just trust the process, as cheesy as it sounds. But
Yeah. That's really all you can do is kind of trust the process and know that you are doing things with good intentions and that
yeah,
hopefully it will be well received.
yeah. So thank you for tuning in today on talking about effective communication. It's been a pleasure talking about this with you all. Such an important topic and something that we all are evolving and learning more about. So stay tuned, hopefully for further episodes about kind of topics like this. So thank you.
Yeah, check out our socials and see what else we have going on. And if anyone has any topics they want to see or hear us talk about, feel free to let us
Please
know.
let us know.
So, we talked about a lot of skills today, whether there's coping skills or effective communication skills or mindfulness skills. And a great way to practice all of these skills is Camp Therapyology. It is not too late to sign up. Coping skills and things like this are some things that we will be touching on. So feel free to check out our socials or send us an email for more information on that, but it's not too late.
So come join us this summer.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. We're gonna have a fun time.